From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, we take farming underwater, see what's being done to conserve and protect these valuable resources. Why now may be the best time to buy some equipment for your farm.
From a tax standpoint, better benefit.
We're hearing more hopeful words in the trade truce between the U.S. and China, but is any ag product moving?
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. A Chinese government spokesman says Beijing will immediately implement terms of a tariff ceasefire with the U.S. and is full of confidence a trade agreement can be reached within 90 days. The Commerce Ministry spokesman says talks will start by focusing on trade in farm goods, energy, and cars. When asked to confirm President Trump's statement earlier this week that China promised to immediately buy American goods, the spokesman said China will, quote, immediately implement the consensus reached by the two sides on farm products, cars, and energy, end quote. But said nothing about buys, and so far, analysts we've spoken with say they haven't seen it happen yet.
But to this point, we have no evidence that China has returned to the U.S. soybean market. Now, we've heard some talk to the contrary. One of Trump's trade advisors, Peter Navarro, he was on one of the Fox Business channels, I believe, and he said that China had already begun to buy U.S. soybeans. I just haven't seen any evidence of it, and I don't believe that anybody else has either.
USDA's commodity export reports were pushed from Thursday to Friday due to the federal day of mourning. Traders watching that in the daily flash report for news of any potential purchases from China. Meanwhile, President Trump agreed Saturday to postpone U.S. tariff hikes for 90 days while the two sides negotiate. China has promised to act quickly on the agreement but failed to release details, and that has rattled financial markets over the past couple of days. Also weighing on markets' minds, the arrest of a top executive at Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei Technologies in Canada. China's foreign ministry demanding the release of Meng Wanzhou. The U.S. requested her detention on suspicion of trying to evade U.S. sanctions on trade with Iran. Meng is Huawei's chief financial officer. She faces possible extradition to the United States. Now, work continues as well on the USMCA deal. It still needs the approval of legislatures in Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi was set to meet with U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer on Thursday to talk about that deal. Now, Pelosi says while the plan has good features, she says they don't matter without enforcement. She wants to make sure there are labor and environmental provisions.
Also central to going forward is that Mexico is supposed to pass a bill that would address the wages and working conditions of Mexican workers. We're not there to exploit workers in Mexico or exploit workers in the United States or in Canada. So again, that passage of the bill is fundamental to our going forward with that, and that hasn't happened yet.
Pelosi did not say if she thought the USMCA deal could get passed yet. Record imports in October drove the U.S. trade deficit to the highest level in a decade. Taking a look at the numbers, the Commerce Department says the gap between what the United States sells and what it buys from foreign countries rose to $55.5 billion in October. That's the fifth straight increase and the highest since October of 2008. Now, the deficit in the trade of goods with China rose 7.1% to a record $43.1 billion. The U.S. is shipping more soybeans to the European Union. With China's shift to Brazilian beans, the EU has turned to the U.S. In the last 5 months, sales have more than doubled compared to a year ago. The EU so far purchasing 3.7 million metric tons of U.S. beans, about a third of our sales, and currently making the U.S. the European Union's #1 supplier. While trade tensions continue to percolate through the global economy, food prices are now at their lowest point in 2 years. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization rolling out its food price index. It measures the monthly changes in a host of food products from cereal grains to oilseeds, dairy products, meat, and sugar. In November, the index fell to 160, its lowest level since May of 2016. The FAO says cereal grain production, like wheat, is down nearly 2.5% from last year's record high production. People are finally being allowed back into their neighborhoods in the Northern California town of Paradise. It comes a month after the blaze killed 85 people and destroyed 14,000 homes. Many aren't finding much left. and the communities have limited services for the immediate future. So people are having to bring food, water, and fuel for their vehicles with them. They were also warned not to move back into their homes until ash and hazardous waste have been cleared. And that rain could increase the risk of flash floods and mudslides. Authorities said 11 people were still unaccounted for in what was the deadliest U.S. wildfire in at least a century. Snow can be a hassle for some, but it can create some beautiful scenes, as meteorologist Mike Hoffman shows us. Today's crop comments. Mike.
Thanks, Clinton. We're starting to get in some pictures of the beautiful winter scenes across the country, like this one from Michelle Jones in Broadview, Montana. She calls herself a fledgling photographer, and you can see why. A beautiful picture of some snow on pine and those bright red leaves there as well. She says if she didn't have kids, this would probably be used for her Christmas card. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see that we start off with a little bit of wind in the northeast, a bit in the southern plains. The winds pick up as a storm system comes out of northern Mexico into Texas and southern portions of the Mississippi Valley during the day tomorrow. By tomorrow morning, you can see those winds, and by afternoon, those will continue to spread into parts of the southeast. Also, a little bit of the eastern Great Lakes gets a little windy as well. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first, here are some hometown temps.
If you're looking to buy some farm equipment before the calendar flips to 2019, changes to the new tax law could impact you. Now, according to Farm Journal's tax expert Paul Neefer, there's always a push to buy equipment at year-end for tax purposes. Well, this year, changes in the new tax code mean those tax incentives apply to both new and used equipment.
From a tax standpoint, better benefit, 100% bonus, new and used. Old law was 50% only on new. So there's definitely a benefit from a tax standpoint doing it at the end of the year.
And happening right now, a year-end online dealer auction. You can find it at machinerypete.com in conjunction with Big Iron. Now, the auction is an unreserved absolute auction, so the highest bidder wins no matter the price. Machinery Pete tells us this auction has no buyer fees, and it runs now through December 27th. It is online. You can go to machinerypete.com/auction to find it. There's a lot on there, so go take a look. All right, so a trade truce raised lots of questions about price potential and the impact of production. We'll talk about it next at the Agribusiness Desk, and later we're off to see the waters of Louisiana, where researchers are looking to keep aquaculture ecosystems healthy by studying the plants that grow there. In agribusiness, the Dow dropping several hundred points again Thursday. Commodities following suit early in the day before fighting their way back. Let's see where things close from the floor of the CME in Chicago.
We saw some pressure come into the market here to start today's session, but rebounding nicely as some of those trade concerns kind of dwindle a little bit. But right up against technical resistance for that March corn contract, we've laid this out as 385 to 387. This is recent resistance. If we can achieve a consecutive closes out above this pocket, I wouldn't be surprised to see funds step in and extend their length a little bit. The next line in the sand for resistance, 390.5. This represents the recent highs back in October and November. Now, moving over to the soybean market, a little bit different of a story. We had 4-star technical support in our daily grain research, 893.25 to 897.5. This represents previous resistance, the gap from Sunday, as well as a key Fibonacci retracement level. This was a buying opportunity on the first test. We kind of bounced off of that, but really kind of back in the middle of no man's land. In the wheat market, we like giving wheat a chance to the buy side. It needs to hold 510 for that March Chicago contract to really have us feeling comfortable. We've traded lower the past 2 sessions, but have come off those lows relatively nicely, which is good to see. We saw live cattle work lower, but came back off those lows really good, testing up against yesterday's high print, and the gap 122.55 is the line in the sand that the bears want to defend. If the bulls achieve a closeout above here, I wouldn't be surprised to see us make a run at that October high of 123.90. It's been Oliver Slope with Blue Line Futures from the floor of the CME.
Here at the Agribusiness Desk, we have Garrett Toy, Ag Trader Talk. Garrett, let's talk about this trade deal, because as soon as this trade deal happened, and we've been waiting on some sort of conversation, and it did seem like it was a positive conversation, but as soon as it happened, I start seeing conversations about, well, It doesn't matter because production is too high anyway to impact prices. So what's going on here? Is it trade or is it production driving these markets?
It's both. I mean, the most bullish thing right now is potential of a trade deal,
sure,
and the market structure with the big market short. That's a selling opportunity.
Okay.
It's potentially the selling opportunity of a lifetime, as long as we don't have a South American weather event. But if we make some progress on the trade side, that at least prevents the stock situation from getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost at 1 billion bushels,
Correct,
like in our carryover, which that's massive.
It is.
It's massive for soybeans. That's got to be weighing on these markets.
Yes, it is. But things are starting to improve. Export sales the last 2 weeks, we've done more. We did more export business the last 2 weeks than we did the prior 4 weeks before then.
Wow.
So exports are starting to come around. But at the same time, over the first 10 weeks of the marketing year, we've done less export business in beans than we did in 2012. Wow. So export sales are pitiful. We need business, we need trade, and and as we mentioned, USDA is at 1.9 on exports. At current pace, we're at 1.5. So we need to find 400 million bushel of export business here pretty quick.
Yeah, can that go to China? Is it possible to pick this back up? I mean, they say we only have 90 days on this deal.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a misnomer. I mean, obviously, the traditional marketing windows are, if we do get a trade deal, can get thrown out the window.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who's going to want to sell it the cheapest. It's going to come down to freight spreads. It's going to come down to FOB offers. And if we have beans available versus South American supplies, it's very well we could change this trade pattern where we could sell some beans to China, in the June, July, August time period. And I wouldn't necessarily just say that our window is narrow here.
Okay, well, there's a lot of opportunity here, a lot of unknowns, but we'll keep watching it. Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate it. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
All in a Row, a new resource for crop and farm management information, is brought to you by Farm Journal and Valent USA.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Your meteorologist Mike Hoffman as we look at this winter storm. I guess it's a winter storm moving through the southern part of the country.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of rain with it, but the northern edge is going to be heavy snow. Yeah,
okay.
No doubt about it. And you can see as we start today, we already have moisture flowing eastward along the stationary front across parts of Texas, northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, into northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. High pressure, though, from northern Illinois back into the northern Rockies. They're going to hold their ground over the next couple of days. You'll notice as we put the maps into motion and the weak storm moving off of New England there will continue to move away. Mainly dry through the Great Lakes. We do have a couple of weak little pieces of energy kind of diving through eastern Canada, which will touch parts of our northeastern states. But for the most part, the big action is down here. We also have a weakening system coming in out west. You'll notice how that moves inland and then falls apart as we head into the first part of the weekend. So lots of rain, parts of Texas, southern Mississippi Valley. There was late today and then early tomorrow. There could be some heavy thunderstorms, southeastern Texas, southwestern Louisiana, even to start today. Widespread rains to the north, and then snow starts breaking out. Texas Panhandle, parts of Oklahoma out of this system. Heading through the day tomorrow, then you can see how that snow streaks eastward right along the northern fringe of it. So southern Missouri, the hills of northern Arkansas, and then you get into Kentucky, southern Indiana eventually as we head into Saturday night. So this is a system to be watched. By the time it gets to the East Coast, there'll be some pretty good snows with it as well. There's one of those pieces of energy I talked about moving through New England late tomorrow, and another cold front poised right behind the first one that's falling apart, so a little bit more moisture for the Pacific Northwest. Here's the precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours, just light amounts, eastern Great Lakes, parts of the Ohio Valley, down into Texas and even southern California, southern Arizona. But boy, the action over the next 36 hours is all across Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and the parts of the southeast. Some of these areas get several inches of rain out of it, and obviously the northern fringes of that is in the form of snow. You see a little bit of snow in the eastern Great Lakes there back into central Indiana, adding in the next 36 hours once that storm system comes out then. Several inches possible, parts of the Texas Panhandle, west central Oklahoma, into the hills of northern Arkansas and southwestern Missouri. Temperatures then, high temperatures today only in the 20s across the northern tier of states. 40s and 50s by the time you get into the southeast till you get to the Gulf Coast, and you're talking 60s. Low temperatures tonight, lots of teens, northern half of the country, as you can see there. Highs tomorrow, more of the same up north, and it's going to be cold enough to snow in the northern fringes of that southern system. Here's the jet stream. There's the low pressure with that system. That moves off the east coast. The big trough in the east kind of goes away for a while. We have pieces of energy going from west to east, so that will take the real cold air out of the lower 48 for a while. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Bowman, North Dakota today, plenty of sunshine and cold, high of just 24. Memphis, Tennessee, cloudy and chilly, bit of rain, high of 43 degrees. And Jacksonville, Florida, a good deal of sunshine, mild this afternoon, high around 64.
Is there such a thing as tilling too deep? We ask the question next on Farm Journal College TV, and later researching plants for farming below the water's surface. Aquaculture in Louisiana coming up on In the Country.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
If the ground isn't frozen or too wet, you may still be thinking about a little fall tillage. Well, today on Farm Journal College TV, we ask our agronomists if you can till too deep.
When we're determining the good depth to run our tillage tool, we can't actually run a tillage tool too deep. So if you go out here and you're looking for your shatter like we've talked about, once we know we've got good shatter shank to shank and the top of this W does not come very high up to the surface, going any deeper than that, based on that tool design and shank spacing, is really just going to add a lot more fluff to this soil here. And then as we come across to get this leveled up, we can have bigger problems with wheel tracks. So it almost becomes too much of a sponge here in too deep a depth as far as the shattering. So once we got our goal accomplished, really that's all the deeper we need to go. Beyond that, we're going to use more horsepower, a lot more fuel, etc., and really not gain anything else. And on the other hand, it could actually take us backwards because the impact of the wheel tracks when I go to level this with my leveling tool could be a lot greater now.
All right, it's not just farm fields that need plant technology to be successful. We'll go to underwater farming next in the country.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota's full line of field-proven hay tools. Explore the full lineup at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
The LSU AgCenter Aquatic Germplasm and Genetic Resource Center is truly a one-of-a-kind operation. The center conducts research benefiting fields such as aquaculture, biomedical, and species conservation. Craig Gautreaux takes us on a tour.
Work at the LSU AgCenter Aquatic Germplasm and Genetic Resources Center can have ramifications for fields such as medicine and wildlife conservation. One tool used at the center is cryopreservation, which involves freezing animal germplasm such as sperm, eggs, or embryos. This germplasm can then be used even centuries later.
It extends well beyond our lifetimes, our children's lifetimes, and our grandchildren's lifetimes. When that material is frozen and stored properly, the theoretical estimates are in the thousands of years.
This work can help assist in the preservation of endangered species. As an animal's numbers decrease, the genetic diversity also decreases, which is a factor in extinction. The center can help preserve the genetic diversity and reintroduce it when needed.
We're not going to create the genetic diversity. We have to capture it. So if you're working with an endangered species, for example, you would want to try to get as much material captured now, because it usually is typically just going down. It's being reduced through time.
The technology at the center can aid in the development of repositories for genetic material. This could prove beneficial for aquatic species like the zebrafish, which play a role in medical research.
Fish like zebrafish, for example, a tiny animal, has basically the same DNA as a human. And by studying that fish, by studying the genetics of that fish, we can gain understanding on human disease.
Because of the center's uniqueness, the center uses different disciplines and incorporates various technological advances to assist in their mission. 3D printing plays a pivotal role in the development of specialized equipment used at the center.
3D printing is a core technology for us. We translate our ideas into objects on a daily basis. and then refine those ideas with our strong connections with application.
Tier says a primary goal of the center is to do research that can be utilized by commercial operations on a large scale. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.